Alrighty.
Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into how to be a fraud fighter. We're going to talk about a pretty serious threat, one that can impact your company and your job, often without you even realizing it. The goal here is to show you exactly how you can help protect your organization right from the inside.
So, let's start with the big question. Why should you even care about fraud? Well, because this isn't just some abstract problem for the accounting department. We're talking about a hidden threat that can actually have a direct impact on you, your job, and the whole vibe of where you work.
Okay, get ready for this number, 5%. According to the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, that's what a typical organization loses from its annual revenue just to fraud. Now, 5% might not sound like a huge deal at first, but let's break down what that actually means.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. What could your company do with an extra 5% of its revenue? We're talking about money for raises, for better benefits, for new tools to make your job easier. Heck, it could even be the difference between keeping jobs and having layoffs in a tough year. When that money vanishes, so do those opportunities. See, it really does affect everyone. So what exactly is this thing we're fighting? Well, the official name is occupational fraud. But all that really means is fraud committed by someone on the inside, an employee, a manager, literally anyone who's part of the team. It is the ultimate inside job.
Now, occupational fraud isn't just one single thing. It actually shows up in three main ways. And if we can understand these categories, it gets a lot easier to know what we should be looking for.
The ACFE breaks it down into three big buckets. First, you've got asset misappropriation. That's a fancy term for theft, really, like stealing cash or walking out with inventory. Second is corruption. Think bribery, or maybe a manager hiring a relative who isn't qualified. And third, there's financial statement fraud, which is basically cooking the books to trick people like investors or banks.
And here's what that actually looks like in the real world. That asset misappropriation we just talked about, well, that could be someone skimming a little cash off the top, faking expense reports, or even creating ghost employees to collect extra paychecks. These are the real, everyday ways fraud actually happens. This all leads us to a really important question. Why? Why do people who seem perfectly normal end up doing this stuff? A criminologist named Donald Cressy came up with a brilliant, simple model to explain it. It's called the fraud triangle. The first side of the triangle is pressure. This is the motivator. It's usually some kind of financial problem that the person feels they just can't tell anyone about. Maybe they're drowning in debt, have a gambling problem, or they're under insane pressure at work to hit unrealistic goals. They feel backed into a corner and fraud starts to look like the only way out. Next, you need opportunity. The person has to think, hey, I can actually get away with this. This is where things like weak internal controls or a lack of oversight create the perfect opening. And here's the key thing. Out of all three sides of this triangle, this is the one that an organization has the most direct control over. And the final piece of the puzzle is rationalization. This is the story the fraudster tells themselves to make it all okay in their head. You know, things like, I'm just borrowing it, I'll pay it back. Or, after all I've done for this company, they owe me this. It's the little mental trick that lets them cross the line.
So now that we kind of get the why, let's shift gears to the what. What are the actual signs we can look for day to day? These are what we call behavioral red flags, little clues that something might be off.
Research from the ACFE points to these 6 things as the most common signs. Is someone suddenly driving a car you know they can't afford? Or what about that coworker who never takes a vacation and gets super protective if anyone else has to do their job? Now, it's super important to remember, these things on their own don't prove anything, but they are definitely indicators that something might be worth a closer look.
Okay, we've covered the what, the why, and the how of fraud. So, what now? Well, this is the most important part. This is where you come in. This is your call to action.
Fighting fraud is absolutely a partnership. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have the official company stuff, audits, hotlines, all that. But on the other side is your role, and it's just as crucial. No system in the world is better than an employee who is paying attention and trusts their gut when something just doesn't feel right.
So here's your toolkit. Here's what you can do. First, you now know the red flags, so trust your instincts. Next, find out how your company wants you to report things. Is there a confidential hotline or a specific person you should talk to? If you see something, say something. And just as important, start talking about this stuff with your coworkers. Just raising awareness is a huge deterrent.
And that right there is the big takeaway. Preventing fraud isn't just a job for the auditors or the C-suite. It's on all of us. When we're all vigilant and aware, we protect our organization,
we protect our colleagues, and we protect ourselves. So the real question isn't whether fraud is happening, it's what are we, together, going to do about it?